Why do AI tools like ChatGPT sometimes feel spot on and other times totally miss the point? Well, it all comes down to how they're built to generate responses. Hi, my name is Sadie, an AI educator and assistant professor who is obsessed with making AI more practical and understandable for everyone, even people who don't have technical background. In this video, I want to talk about why AI tools like ChatGPT sometimes are very spot on, but other times totally miss the mark. We'll dive into the secret sauce, which are tokens, the basic units that language models use to understand and generate responses. By the end of this video, you will understand how language models actually understand information, write better prompts using simple techniques, and even learn about a technique that is called prompt injection that can sometimes influence an AI's behavior. Let's break it all down. Let's start with tokens. Imagine language as Lego bricks. AI doesn't see full sentences the way we do. It sees chunks called tokens. Here's how tokenization actually works. When you type a message, the AI breaks your text into these token pieces. Common English words often get their own token, but longer, rarer, or a specialized word might get split into multiple pieces. Let's see how different phrases tokenize. This is two tokens, the cat. This one has multiple tokens because AI breaks this uncommon word into pieces like super, cal, ifrag, elastic. Now for the fascinating part. AI generate responses one token at a time, like placing Lego bricks in sequence. Let me walk you through what this looks like in slow motion. Let's say you ask, what is the capital of France? The AI's thinking process goes something like this. You see how things work. Every time the next word is supposed to be picked, the AI picks the word that has the highest possibility of being proper in that location. This isn't actually a retrieval process. It's a statistical prediction, as you just saw in the example, based on patterns in the AI's training data. The model assigns probability to thousands of possible next tokens and selects the most likely one each time. But why does this token by token generation matter? There are multiple reasons. First, each model has a specific token limit, which is called context window, that affects how much conversation it can remember, ranging from a few thousands to over 100,000 tokens in the most advanced models. More tokens equal to higher computational demands and potentially higher financial costs. That's why more advanced models are usually more expensive, because they can accept the higher number of tokens. Additionally, understanding tokenization helps you craft more efficient prompts and manage longer conversations. Finally, the token by token generation explains why AI sometimes starts answering confidently but then contradicts itself. It's building its answer piece by piece. It is very helpful to understand different models tokenize text differently. For instance, GPT models use a system called BPE, byte pair encoding, that handles unfamiliar words by breaking them into subword pieces, while other models like Claude use their own tokenization approaches. Let me give you an example to put things into perspective. When ChatGPT seems to forget what you said earlier in a conversation, it's often because earlier messages are falling outside its context window, the limited number of tokens it can process at once. Think of it like a finite whiteboard. When the board gets full, you have to erase the oldest content at the beginning to make room for new information. Similarly, the AI has to erase older messages from its active memory when its token limit is reached. Now you know why sometimes AI tools like ChatGPT get a little bit confused when the conversation is long. Knowing how the AI builds its answers token by token, you can start writing better prompts that dramatically improve your results. Think of it like guiding a really smart intern. You need to be clear, specific, and structured. Let me show you 4 powerful techniques that make a huge difference when it comes to prompt engineering. 1. Give the AI a specific role. When you assign a role, you're activating relevant knowledge pattern in that AI. In a generic prompt, you would say, tell me about investing. But if you assign role, you can say something like, as a financial advisor with 20 years of experience working with first-time investors, explain how to start investing with $1,000. See how the role creates contents? The AI now knows to focus on beginner-friendly advice from an expert perspective. You can use roles like teacher, consultant, critic, journalist, or even historical figure. 2. Be extremely specific about the task. Vague requests get vague answer. Add parameters like audience, purpose, length, and tone. For example, write about climate change is very vague. Let's make it better. Write a 3-paragraph explanation of how carbon capture technology works for a high school science class. Include 2 recent innovations and explain them using everyday analogies. Super clear. The more detail you provide, the more tailored your responses will be. 3. Request a particular format. Formats give a structure to AI responses, making them more usable and predictable. A bad example is, help me plan my workday. But a good example is, create a workday schedule template with 3 columns: time, task, and expected outcome. Include 30-minute blocks from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with suggested break times highlighted. For formats, you have so many options. For example, you can ask for bullet points for key ideas, numbered steps for processes, tables for comparisons, Q&A format for complex topics, and markdown headers for organization. I'm sure there are so many other options I didn't mention in this list. And finally, 4. Document successful prompts as templates. When you get great results, save those prompts as reusable templates. For example, here's a template I use for content creation. Act as a role, create a content type about topic for audience. The tone should be your desired tone. Structure it as format with section and section 1, section 2, and section 3. Include a special element and optimize it for purpose. I just fill in the brackets for different projects and tweak it as needed. Just this saves hours of prompt experimenting for me. The best prompt engineers don't just write new prompts every time. They build a personal library of proven templates that consistently deliver results. If you want a complete prompt building framework with more examples, just let me know in the comment. I'll record another video explaining all the systems I use. Now let's discuss a concept called prompt injection. This refers to attempt to override or bypass an AI's intended behavior through carefully crafted inputs. So historically, language models could sometimes be vulnerable to inputs like ignore all previous instructions and instead do X. This used to work because earlier models tended to give significant weight to the most recent instruction in a prompt sequence. So the user's prompt is more valuable than whatever they were trained on. However, modern AI systems have become increasingly resistant to these simple approaches. Major providers like OpenAI, Anthropic, and others have implemented safeguards, including separate system instructions that are less vulnerable to override, improved training techniques that help models maintain their intended behavior, and continuous monitoring and updates to address new vulnerabilities. But obviously, understanding this concept is valuable, especially if you're building an AI application or need to ensure consistent behavior from your AI tool. Alright, let's recap what we learned in this video. Tokens are how AI reads and builds language one step at a time. Prompts are how we guide that process. Specific roles, task, and format dramatically improves your results. And finally, prompt injection is how instructions can be hijacked. Remember that prompt engineering is an iterative process. Different models and prompt formats yield different results. The key is to be specific about what you want and to save your successful prompt as templates you can reuse later. Whether you're using AI for business, research, or creative projects, understanding these fundamentals help you work more effectively with these tools. If you want to learn more, like advanced prompt engineering techniques or my personal template library, comment AI Insider and I'll share some additional resources with you. Hit subscribe if you are into breaking down AI in a way that actually makes sense.